Welcome back to another episode of Oxygen Not Included, everybody. We've had a couple of streams since the last episode where we set up a few new systems and started getting set up for getting our base a little more stable so that we can start working on our second asteroid. The main focus of that has been on getting our food situation under control. I wanted to start off by showing you an issue that we came across. Suddenly we were down to almost no calories, and what had happened was we were starting to have rotted food, and then all of a sudden on day cycle 1085 we had 1.67 million calories of food rot in one day. And what had caused that was somehow this sensor, instead of being set to minus 25, this is the deep freeze cooler that makes it so that this chlorine is minus 23 degrees, keeping everything deep frozen, got set to 403, so it stopped cooling. 403 is the number that is used right here. So I'm not sure if it was some kind of glitch, or more likely the fact that I probably was working on the system up there and accidentally clicked on this sensor and changed it to 403 instead of that one. But this system stopped cooling our deep freezer, and all the food that was sitting in this spot slowly warmed up and then rotted, and we lost 1.6 million calories all at once. So we fixed that issue, and then we started working on some more sustainable food sources. The main one is that now that we have our petroleum boiler, the petroleum is producing a lot of carbon dioxide. In fact, we had some breaches, and so our base is pretty much full of carbon dioxide at the moment. We're working on that still. But the carbon dioxide in here is enough to feed a ton of Slicksters. So we got one Slickster out of the printing pod, and we are breeding it up to the point where we have all of these little rooms full. We designed a room where there's a sweeper that will move any eggs or anything else out. But the really nice thing about Slicksters is that all they need to do is be groomed and have carbon dioxide. And if they have carbon dioxide, they'll produce oil, which can be collected and then turned into petroleum, which will then produce carbon dioxide. So we get a sustainable loop of food without putting any other items in and putting very little duplicate work time in. All they have to do is groom them once a day. So that's a very nice system to have. And then on top of that, petroleum generators each of them produce 750 grams of polluted water per second. So with 8 of them, we're getting 6 kilograms of polluted water coming out of here every second. In fact, I think we need to work on changing this up so we can get this polluted water out of here faster, because we're starting to get to the point where this is going to overflow, and that's going to be a major issue for us. The problem that we're having with that is that there's just not enough space to store the water, so we set up an overflow that doesn't seem to be working now all of a sudden. I think it's this loop that's causing the problem. I'll have to look into that, but this is supposed to overflow automatically, and it's not. So this pipe should go here. I think that maybe this is causing the problem. Let's find out. We'll deconstruct that quick. But so the major issue we need to work on right now is handling all this extra water we're getting in. Our storage is backed up with water so that we can't keep processing polluted water in the way that we have been. and we're collecting this. This is just an overflow tank that's collecting any excess water that's coming in from all over different sources. What I would like to do is set up some centralized water processing, set up a boiler so that any water that we have, we can run through it, and we'll end up with perfectly clean water with no germs in it. And we can just, any source of water we have, we can pump into it. So we're going to work on designing that this episode while we wait for the Slicksters to build up. We also set up these little mini kill chambers in each room, so we don't need to be moving Slicksters and other critters all about to get them to a centralized kill chamber. So basically what happens is, in each of these rooms, there is a little room underneath. There's two sensors here. One says, if there is below one critter in here, keep this door open. So if there's nobody down here, the door stays open. This one says if the count goes above 7 up here, the door is clear to close. So this door will stay open until there is more than 7 critters in this room and just one critter in this room. Well, or at least one critter in this room. So when Slicksters jump down into this room, if the population in here is still higher than 7, then it will close the door, and the oil that is collected here will fill up that room, and they will evolve into meat for us. And then the sweeper will pull it out and take it down to our storage. I also set that same system up in our hatch rooms. I had to move some things around and change up the design a little bit. But so the same system works just the same as it does up there. There's a stable room here and then a room underneath. When this sensor detects that there is more than 7 in this room, it gives the okay for this door to lock. And as soon as there is a hatch down in this room, it will lock the door and they will drown. And then the sweeper will take the meat and send it out. Nice little automation, runs with no power and no moving hatches around, so we can continue to get meat out of these stables forever. These won't last forever because we have to feed the stone hatches to keep them going, but right now we're working on feeding them sedimentary rock, which we still have quite a bit of. Eventually these will be phased out once we have enough meat coming in just from the Slicksters, because these are more labor intensive and more material intensive. This farm is free and infinite, so there's no point in changing that. We were also working on the pit farm, but the main goal of the pit farm was to get dirt, and now that we have polluted water coming in abundance, not only from there but from our polluted water geyser that we're going to be changing things about with, we can get dirt out of that. So there will be no need to keep them. So eventually this farm and these farms will be going away once we get this system very stable. So I'll be back once we get set up with what we're going to be working on today, but I just wanted to give you an idea of where we were at after the couple of streams we had. I do have the replays of those streams available on the channel in case you want to watch them. So I'll be back in a little bit. Little update on our progress here. We have moved our nursery for our larva up here into the Slickster system. So these 3 incubators are just running constantly. I'm not worried about the power anymore, so I didn't put any automation on them. I may in the future if I decide it's necessary, but for now it's just running all the time, so they get lullabied, and these eggs are hatched as quickly as possible. With the buff, it takes 4 cycles for each one to get hatched into a Slickster. So we are slowly filling each of these rooms up, and then once there's 7 in each of them, we'll increase it to 8 so that we can start putting 8 in a room, and then as soon as one gets placed, it should find its way into the evolution chamber at the bottom, and we should get a solid supply of food. And then we'll just have to see how we're doing as far as dealing with carbon dioxide and decide if we need to expand that later. The next project that we're working on is down here. I got it started for us. So the way this works is, let's do the plumbing overlay first. We have a cooling loop here that goes around cooling off this polluted water using these two aqua tuners. The idea is that it will heat up these tiles to the point where they are hot enough that they can boil the liquid that's coming in. For now, I'm building a little lock here so that I can start pumping all the gas out of that chamber, so that when it flashes to steam, all I have is steam. So right now I still have some gases in there. But so basically the idea is that the liquids that get pumped in will get instantly flashed over to steam. The steam will work its way over into this room, which is being cooled by the cooling loop. And then the heat from cooling down the steam will go back into the aqua tuners, heating this up, creating a loop. It's just some simple automation to keep it so that this is so that this temperature here is above the boiling point. So the idea is that whatever water or liquid I pump into this system will instantly flash over to the boiling point and then provide us with steam to cool down. And then we will pump it out here into our cold water, or relatively cold water tank. We have a bunch of sensors in here that we're going to have to tweak and get down to be exactly where we need them to be. The design itself I kind of got off of a Reddit post from a couple years ago. The poster was Coder Stone. He had like the basics of it laid out just to give me the idea, and then I made some. I'm going to make some changes to it. I made a few changes already, and we'll get it working for our system. My idea is that I want to be able to pump any kind of liquid I want in here, because whether it be salt or it be polluted water, it should boil, and then we can just have the conveyor system pull out whatever remains we have from it. So we're going to get it up to temp and mess around with it and see if we can figure out the best way to make it work. But that is where we're at right now. We just have to keep pumping in heat into this until we get to the point where we can actually start boiling, and then we'll see what we need to change to make it work better. So I have just the water coming off of the main polluted water tank right now. I actually want to cut this so that it doesn't go upwards, because it'll create a loop. But I put in a valve here so that I can control the flow rate in. I'm just emptying this out for now. Actually, let's set this to all the way up, and we'll just empty that line out. But I want to be able to control how much water is going in, and then we'll try to get the temperatures dialed in. For now, it's not picking up a lot of heat, so it needs to. It's going to take a little while for us to get anything going on. I may have to pump in some hot water just to get to the point where we are able to get the temp to it. But we'll see. It's slowly working its way up. We started at 40 degrees and now we're up to 67. We need to get it over 120 for the polluted water in there to boil. So we will see. I'm going to remove this tile so we can just get all this gas out of here. I don't really want it to go too fast at the moment, because I do want to get all this gas out of here first. So it's kind of good that it's taking its time. We want this to be at a high enough temperature that when the polluted water goes in, it boils right away, so we don't have off-gassing. Because right now we're dealing with all of this polluted oxygen coming in, and we don't want that when the system's finally done. So we will see how that works too once we get this all pumped out. I may have to change this out to do a regular pump just to get it pumped out fast enough, but we'll see. So I'm going to let this keep going until we get the temps where we need them to be, and then we'll start dialing it in so that it works. But hopefully this will be a versatile enough system that I can just pump liquids through here to create a new clean water tank and process all the liquids we already have, plus anything new that's coming in. That's the hope, anyway. And then we'll expand it. I want to make it so that I have a little more fine-tuned control so that I can send out water at whatever temperature I want. So it's going to take a little while to get all that figured out, but it is a fun little project to be working on. And then I built it right here next to our cool slush geyser, so when this gets active again in 20 cycles, I can have this water going directly in. I don't want to do that yet because this water is pretty cold, but it won't matter once we get this up to temp, because even with cold water should boil pretty quickly. Or at least that's the hope. So I'm going to let this run for a few more cycles and get the temperature up, and then we will go from there and see what we can get it to do. We have our boiler system running. It is not working exactly how I want. I think I may need to figure out a better way to do the heat source. So the way that it's working is this water is picking up heat from where it's going. It's just picking up. I added in a little extra gradient pipe to pick up some heat from the surrounding atmosphere to keep it heating up. When it's done, it's supposed to take the water that's boiled that collects in here, and it will heat the water back up, and it'll keep the cycle going. But it's just not producing enough heat because I don't have enough heat in the water here. So it's not really running stable enough to get this temperature up high enough to boil the water. So I'm going to have to revisit it and figure out how I want to handle that. I may need to tap into some heat source somewhere to put heat in. But the other thing I wanted to update on was that my Slicksters have all populated. I've now increased the Slickster count in farms up to 8 so that we can start putting extras in there and they'll get cooked off. But the extra eggs are already being stored in here, and when they hatch they turn into meat. So we've built up to a little over 2 million calories of barbecue already. So that's going well. I think I may need to expand the Slickster farm so that we can handle more carbon dioxide, because we're definitely getting more carbon dioxide in than we're using. So that'll be our next steps for that. We've taken out all the feeders for our hatches so that the hatches can be slowly taken out, because we don't want to keep feeding them rock when we don't really need their meat source. So we're going to let that go, and then these ones will die out over time and we'll stop repopulating them. I'm going to remove the stone hatchling eggs from here. We're going to stop incubating and feeding those farms, or resupplying those farms, and we'll just let these eggs incubate off and get the last bit of food out of them. And so now the only food sources we have is the Slicksters, and we'll see how well that goes. But I'm going to do some more research on how I want to do this boiler and get this set up so that I can start processing our liquids in a better way. And yeah, I'll be back once I have something else to show you with that. We've made a few final changes to this system, trying to get this dialed in to process polluted water and salt water. We added in a tepidizer at the top that preheats the water, and then what we did is we have this coolant loop. After it cools down the steam in here, the water goes up and picks up some heat off of this tank up here, so that heat can then be cooled down again to generate more heat into the boiler chamber itself. It's not working the best. Still trying to dial it in and see if we can make it work a little better for us. But it is functioning. So the automation, we're still working on getting exactly right, because what's happening in here is that as we're putting in liquid, it's creating these gas pockets that are making it so that this will shut off. So I think I'm going to try This room is only ever goes up to 80 degrees, so having it be a non-pressurized room is probably for the best. We also had a lot of problems with pressure building up and breaking through, causing some issues. So I'm going to put mesh tiles across the top here, but then I'm going to put regular tiles above those. That way we don't have any liquid from the top spilling in. We may actually seal this up a little better to make it so that we definitely don't have anything coming through. We did in fact have some steam in there. Okay, well then we'll let that out. Go from there. But so now this sensor could be set correctly and allow it to process. So still a little bit more to get this system all working the way I want it to work. But we are in fact getting some water out of it. We're still just dumping that water back into our main tank for now until we get it dialed in. But while we've been working on that, a lot of time has passed, and so most of our hatches are now gone. The Slicksters are built up, but we are having some issues with them not being able to repopulate fast enough, so we need to make some changes there. And we're ripping out some of our other farms, but we're still sitting at over 3,000 or 3 million calories, so we have time to get all those things dialed in. But I do still want to get this system very stable before I move on to the new asteroid. So we're probably gonna have at least one more episode before we set out to Gorgani to start our second colony. So some successes, some failures. We've also processed most of this carbon dioxide that leaked out to get the map cleared back up. It used to be all the way up to here, and we've gotten through it. So between now and the next episode, I'll probably continue doing some tweaking on this and get a final version of it, and also do some more tweaking on our food supply chain and get that settled, and then we'll start out the next episode with the changes we've made there, and we'll go from there. But hope you enjoyed watching, and hope to see you in the next episode. Bye!